Okay, so I'm back to you again about the bogs. So I suppose on Monday we learned about Móna and how they exploit the bogs in Ireland and how they dig out of the raised bogs in the centre of Ireland, and they've been doing that for decades, since 1946 or something like that. I suppose when they sent the peat or the turf from the bog to the electricity or power factories, there was once 10 active peat power plants in Ireland burning peat to generate electricity for our homes. And that worked brilliant for Ireland. I mean, we had loads of bogs. Móna bought up the bogs in the Midlands, in the raised bogs. They dug out the peat. They supplied it to 10 electricity stations around Ireland. We burnt that peat, that milled peat, in the electricity stations, power stations, and it created electricity for our homes and schools. It worked brilliant. Obviously, we've moved away from the peat in recent years and we've gone to more oil and gas, and lately, thank God, we've gone to more renewable sources of energy. Today, only 3 of these 10 power plants remain in operation because Móna have started moving away from burning peat to create electricity. The other 7 have been closed as Ireland moves away from relying on burning peat to generate electricity. Okay, so just very quickly, the life cycle of a general bog, will last 50 years, and then after that, there's no more peat left in it, basically. So you'd have to wonder, what do we do with our cutaway bogs? When we've cut away all the peat, what do we do with them? I suppose they're unique habitats. There's unique plants and animals and insects that literally grow and live in them. We should preserve them. So if all of the peat, like in this picture, has been cut away, leave it as a habitat maybe for the animals, insects and plants that grow there. Some people would be of that belief that we should preserve them. And some people plant coniferous trees then, because bogland is not great for farming. It's very waterlogged and it's just not good. So some people plant coniferous trees in there, and we can, sell them. We can cut them down, use them for timber products, so that works fine. So we can use the timber from the trees for roofing and other timber products, so that works great. When we build houses, we need timber for the roof. Some bogs are used for swamps, as swamps for animals and plants, so like I mentioned earlier, habitats for them. Some build wind farms on cutaway bogs, typically the flatter ones. When you've used and taken out all the peat that you can take out of it, and you've nothing else to take out, some of the wind farm companies build the wind farms in there because they're usually in remote areas. They don't disturb anyone because a lot of people don't like the wind farms being built near their homes. So it just makes sense to build a wind farm in there. We're using up the land for good use. It's lowly populated. There's no one really living around. The noise pollution from the wind turbine spinning won't affect anyone. And most cutaway bogs are flat anyway, so it's easy to build the wind farms on, so that makes sense. So there are a couple of uses that we can do with those cutaway bogs when they're finished with. Recently, and a few years ago, they kind of put a turf cutting ban on. They want people in Ireland to stop cutting turf in the bogs because they want us to move away from it. Like, there's a lot of households that still burn turf, so I suppose the government wants us to move away from that and to be more environmentally friendly and not be polluting the air so much. So they introduced a turf cutting ban, and as you can imagine, in regions where people had bogs, and they didn't put a ban on all bogs, but it was certain bogs in Ireland. You can imagine those people were raging over it. So they introduced a turf cutting ban because the European Union passed a law in 2010. The turf cutting ban applied to 53 raised bogs in Ireland. So you can imagine there was a lot of people raging over that. And the government, though, did give 12 million euros in compensation to those people, because some of the people were selling the bog, the peat from that bogland that they're operating out of. I suppose, just going back to that, some people still continue to cut the turf in the bog, even though there was a ban. Some people were found out and they were, brought into the guards and questioned over it and given fines over it. And some people got away with it. So I suppose that ban is still in place for some people. What are the advantages of bogs? There's unique plants and animals living in them. If you love nature, if you love habitats for animals, that's a huge advantage of a bog. Bogs actually help climate change, believe it or not. They lock away carbon, so that's a good thing. And they store huge amounts of water, so they do prevent flooding to a certain extent. Okay, now just wanted to go back to the last section, and that's Board na Móna. So if they used to have 10 power plants that they supplied peat to, now that's gone down to 3. What are they doing now to make money? So they've begun moving away from harvesting peat to create energy, and they've started rehabilitating the bogs that they used to use in the Midlands. So if they're not using these boglands anymore, these raised bogs in the Midlands anymore, what are they doing with the bogland, and how are they now making money? So it wants to completely move away from harvesting peat, and now it wants to create renewable sources of energy. They are a business after all. They need to make money and diversify. So Board na Móna want to go into more wind power. They want to go into more biomass energy and things like that. So their plan is to fully end harvesting peat by 2028. So they still do operate some bogs in the Midlands, but they've cut that down drastically. So by 2028, in 8 years' time, they hope to fully end harvesting the peat. Okay? There is going to be a lot of job losses. There's going to be 430 people losing their jobs, which is quite sad, and that's quite worrying. In October of last year, they did announce plans to redeploy 200 workers. Now, redeploy 200 workers means they're going to take 200 workers from bogs that they're closing down and maybe give them jobs on the wind farms. Is this a good or a bad thing? It's a good thing, because they're giving 200 people, they're giving them a job. They're not letting them totally without work. I suppose it's a bad thing for the local area. It might affect local economies, local restaurants and petrol stations that benefited out of those workers leaving the bog every evening and passing by the restaurant or passing by the shop or passing by the petrol station. But it's good that they redeployed them and gave them work elsewhere. 400 workers have already left Board na Móna through a voluntary redundancy scheme. So they knew that the job losses would be coming. They knew that Board na Móna were shutting down some bogs. So they said, look, put up their hands, and they said, right, we'll actually take redundancy. Redundancy means that the Board na Móna will make them retire and give them a nice kind of a money package with it. Okay, so you get like a couple of thousand basically. They could get like 10, 12, 15,000 for leaving, but like you're essentially retired then at that stage. The Irish government has promised to fund money to reskill the workers. So people that, like the 430 people that are going to lose their jobs in the next 8 years, the government have promised to reskill them, to help to develop the communities, because a lot of the raised bogs that Board na Móna work out of, there's literally towns and communities built up around those bogs. Like, you would worry about them. What's going to happen when the bogs are closed? How are the shops going to keep going, the petrol stations, the restaurants? So the government have promised to fund that. Economically, it is going to have an impact. So in 2015, 5 years ago, they employed a workforce of nearly 2,000 people. And we know that they're going to lose 430 jobs in the next 8 years. As well as being a source of employment, the employees spend money in the local economy, and that keeps the local economy going. So it is going to be a worry going forward, but hopefully the government keep their promise and keep, refunding money and helping the local communities affected by the bog closures and reskilling the workers that lost their jobs. Some of the machinery that they're not going to be needing anymore, the millers and the ditchers and the graders and the harrowers and the ridgers, they basically started auctioning a lot of them off actually last March, the 14th of March. So they're going to have plenty more auctions, I'm sure, in future between even now and 2028. Their big plan then with the bogs that they're no longer going to use is they're going to rehabilitate them. Okay, so rehabilitate them is turn them into something else. Don't just leave them sit there. So they're going to create 150 jobs rehabilitating these bogs. So that's good. It might be long-term jobs, but it's still 150 people that will make money out of it. So environmentally, Board na Móna have committed to reducing the carbon emissions, because think of 10 electricity power stations were burning peat for decades. That was pumping a load of smoke and, carbon dioxide up into the air, which isn't good for the environment. They're going to regenerate wildlife habitats, literally create habitats for animals in boglands that they once used. They'll continue to make energy, but they're going to make renewable energy through biomass and wind energy. So it's going to be good. It's going to be positive for us all, for the air, for the environment, less pollution. So how are they going to rehabilitate the bogs? They're going to build 21 turbine wind farm in County Offaly. close to its former briquette factory. So maybe the people that worked in the briquette factory could be redeployed and work in the new 21 turbine wind farm. And it's in a rural area, so it mightn't affect any people with, say, noise pollution or visual pollution or anything like that. The new wind farm will create renewable energy, and that's going to power up our school, it's going to power up Closh, it's going to power up our homes. So we must be thankful to Bord na Móna that they're doing that and keeping our environment clean. The new wind farm will create 120 short-term jobs in the construction of it. So the fellas delivering the parts of the wind turbine, the diggers and the machinery and the cranes in the background, constructing and putting it together, the engineers on site. And then it's going to create 5 long-term jobs in operating and maintaining the 21 wind turbines. So you'll have 5 people basically turning up every day when the 21 wind turbines are working and checking to see that they're working okay and maintaining them and fixing them if need be. So it's good, it's positive. They already have a number of wind farms built, located around the Midlands, so it's not something new, but their newest one is in Offaly, but they have a lot of them built already, so that's good. At present, 10% of Ireland's renewable energy needs are generated by Bord na Móna at its power stations and wind farms. So that's really good. So already Bord na Móna are giving us 10% of our renewable energy. Now, hopefully they'll up that, but that's really, really positive. They have a brown to green strategy. They've set that up. That means that they're going to use their bogland for creating new green renewable energy. Okay? They will help us to achieve our goal of creating 70% renewable energy by 2030. Now, I'm a bit sceptical myself but by in 10 years' time, we're going to be creating, like, out of all of the electricity that we're going to be creating, 70% of it's going to be renewable. And that's going to come from Bord na Móna, but that'll be great anyway that they're helping us to do that. Bord na Móna's power or electricity company is called PowerGen. So you might be seeing that a lot more in future because they're really setting up loads of wind farms now. They're really creating a load of renewable energy and making money out of it. So that company that they've set up is called PowerGen. PowerGen is a low carbon electricity generator. So in simple terms, they create electricity from wind turbine. They generate electricity from wind energy, but they also get it from biomass. Now, biomass, as you can see in the picture, is growing crops or growing willow trees and literally bringing them into a factory and creating, you're basically, I suppose, kind of like burning them, that those crops, and you're creating energy out of it, electricity. Biogas is another one where you take organic waste from animals and you create electricity out of it. So PowerGen is the company created by Bord na Móna, who are creating the renewable energy from wind energy, biomass, biogas, etc. So they have also set up a waste management facility in County Kildare, and at that facility they take in waste fuel left over from houses and businesses and factories, and they process 25,000 tonnes of biodegradable waste every year. So that's even like food compost, leftover waste fuel, and they convert it to electricity. Now, you don't need to remember that bit of detail, but it's just going to show how creative Bord na Móna have gotten with trying to get money. Since the bogs have closed, how do they make money? They've even set up a plastic recycling factory. So they really have gone from being so bad for the environment to burning turf from the bogs for decades to total turnaround to now like creating renewable electricity from wind farms, creating renewable energy from biomass, setting up a plastic recycle factory. They have plans to set up aquaculture, which is a fish farm. So setting up fish farmer on land that they once used to extract peat. So basically, say if we have a shortage of salmon or trout or herring in our waters and we don't want to run out for them because the restaurants need them, basically you set up a fish farm and you farm that fish in a little plot of land, in a little area of water. So what else have they done with the old bogs? They've turned them into discovery parks. So family days out, families love them days out. They've created walkways through the bogs, cycleways. They've set up visitor centres. You can take a tour of the bogs, see what the bogland looks like, look at the rare animals and plants and insects that are in there, looking at the flora and the fauna. Flora as the animals, or the flowers and the fauna are the animals that live there. People love that, and it's a day out, and they might pay a few euros to get in there. So they are rehabilitating the old bogs, whether they're building wind turbines on them, whether they are creating visitor centres, whether they're creating habitats, they're preserving the bog, okay, and keeping it for plants and animals, creating a safe space for the animals and plants to grow, no construction, no pollution, little interference. So it's good for the environment, it's good for nature. Okay, so I hope that helps.